Hey guys, it's me, Jason Calhoun, with another tutorial here. In this one, we're going to be going over how to use or animate a Photoshop file in After Effects. If you're listening or watching this anywhere other than my website, make sure you check out my website at www.jasoncalhoun.info for more tutorials like this and more goodness. So here's the deal. I am literally working on this project tonight, and I wasn't even planning on recording a tutorial, but I thought, why not? Why not start recording and just kind of show you what I'm doing here? Maybe it'll help out. So I'm almost done with this animation. I'll just show you real quick what I've done in After Effects. So I'll create a new project here. Oh, you know what? No, I don't want to do that. I'll create a new composition. And so, actually, I just noticed something. Let me see what composition settings. If you're working in a composition, you can just go to composition settings to see what you're working at. Okay, good. I'm at the right resolution. Just wanted to make sure. I'm going to create a new composition here, and this one's going to be, no, it'll be the same size. Okay, cool. I'm just confused, a little delirious tonight. So the first thing that I did was just saved this, because that's the first thing I always do. And so let me show you how to bring in a Photoshop file in After Effects. You go over to your project window over here, and you can either go up to File, Import File. You can right-click within your project window, right-click, Import File. You can hit Command-I on a Mac, or I think it's Control-I on a PC, or you can just double-click in here, which is probably the easiest for me. Find your Photoshop file, which for me is right here, .psd. Click Open. And oh wait, you know what? I think I missed a step there, and I made this mistake when I was working in here before. So import file. Yes, what you need to do, at least what I recommend doing, is changing this import as from footage to composition. And what that will do is automatically create a composition using these layers in this Photoshop file. So if I hit open, I get this little box and ask me, as far as layer options, do I want editable layer styles, or do I want After Effects to merge all the layer styles into footage? So basically you'll end up with just a single piece of footage and you won't have access to these layers. I want access to these layers because that's what I'm going to animate, so I'm going to change that over to editable layer styles. Now, here's what it'll do. It will give me a composition here. I can just double click that. It opens up, and there is the completed Photoshop file with all of the composition composite modes, as you can see right there, and all of my layers right there. When I did this before, let me show you what will happen. If I import this as footage instead, it will give me, and I can change this to editable, it'll give me all of the, does it work that way? Oh, it does. What? Okay, so maybe it works both ways. I don't know, play around with it. I did it as video before, and it didn't give me a composition, I didn't think, but I don't know. Okay, so here's what I did just to catch you up in my almost completed version here. I'll show you what it looks like. Just did some basic stuff. I'm still working on it, and I'll show you what I'm going to be working on. But basically, I animated in this Africa and this little background bubble thing. It's not a bubble at all. What do you call this thing? Little bar that the graphics guy created. Animated in the other one down here. Added some motion blur to it, and then the little text here just appears. It just fades up, and then I just animated the scale. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. So anyway, so that's what you end up with. This fades up, and then what I'm working on now is I'm just going to add some little 3D depth to this, and I'll show you again. So all I did was, so you can see we have our different layers here. Right here we have our Thanksgiving, oh no, sorry, wrong one. Thanksgiving for Africa text. And right down here, I think it was this one, we have our little, this little, I don't know, what do you call this thing? Bar, like a little bar that the graphics guy created. So all I did is I parented the bar right there by grabbing the pick whip and dragging it up to Thanks for Africa. So now I can just click on Thanks for Africa, and the little bar is connected there. Don't have to mess with that. So it's like it's one object. I did the same thing for this Tuesday, November 23rd. I just found that little bar there, grabbed the pick whip. That should be called something simpler, I tell you, and dragged it up to the text, so it was all one. And then all I did was, let me show you on this one. I just dragged this off screen, and what I wanted to show you, another thing is, if I was to just grab this and move it off screen, you can see that I could possibly get it off, in the wrong position. Now it's up higher than it should be, and so one of the ways to prevent that, one thing you could do is just drop this down, drop this little transform menu down, and change the position manually here. You can just drag this number over and it'll just move in space without moving it up and down. The other thing you can do, and the way that I usually do it, is just click and then hold down the shift key, and now I can move this thing left or right, or is this, I think, the x-axis, and I can move my mouse up and down and it won't move. It locks it in the X position, so I can go back and forth. You can see I can, if I get it in the middle, it locks it to the middle, so it moves in the Y. Anyway, that'll just lock it. So I've dragged it off screen. I just created a keyframe by hitting the stopwatch next to position, moved my little time cursor down, and just moved it back, and that animated it. Did the same thing down here, and then I just went into this text here, this food for today thing, and animated the opacity to help it, well, not to help it, but to cause it to fade up. So I just brought the opacity down to 0, clicked the stopwatch to create a keyframe, dragged it down, and brought the opacity back up to 100%. And then I also just animated the scale in the same way using these keyframes. So then what I did to catch you up to where I'm at right now is I selected all of my background layers, which I believe were these 4 and these 3 up here. I enabled all of the tracks, all of the layers. I enabled them for 3D, which you can do by just clicking this toggle switches button or hitting F4. And you just want to see this little 3D box there. Right now, none of them are checked, so none of them are in 3D, but if I select those, now these are all 3D layers. And so all I did is moved these background layers that are selected there back in 3D space, and then I just resized it. And then I added, by going up to Layer, New, I added a camera with a 35 millimeter lens, and you can see what that does when I add that is it changes the size of my background and the size of my text just because of the size of the lens that I put on there. So let me get out of that, and you can now see here's what I was working on before I started recording. And so what I was going to do is just resize my background once again. So I believe it's these layers here. Just going to resize them to fill the composition. And now what I can do with my camera is some kind of camera move. So maybe what we'll do is just kind of do a slow zoom in. That always works pretty well. And so I'm not actually going to use the zoom control, although we could. What I want to do is actually like dolly the camera forward. And so to do that, I'm just going to keyframe. I think all we have to keyframe is the orientation, but we'll see. Let's move this down. And I want to change to my camera tools. And I can do that right up here. If I hold down the camera, I want to use the Track Z camera tool. Another easy way to do that, you can see right here, is the shortcut C, and that will just toggle all of your camera tools. So I want to go to this one, which will allow me to zoom in and out. So I want to start right about, well, you know, I need to go back to my starting position. Oh, and look here. If I move this in Z space, you can see that it's actually the position and point of interest that I need to keyframe, not orientation. So I'll get rid of that. And I think you can just keyframe actually position only, and that'll do the same thing for you. So I'm just going to pull back a little bit, set my starting keyframe, go down to the end of our time here, and just zoom in a little bit. And again, I'm not really zooming in. I'm just changing the Z position of the camera. What I also want to do is, you can see that future is being cut off here. So let's just select a different camera tool. Maybe this is the orbit camera tool. So let us kind of orbit around. So let's see what happens if we maybe move. That's kind of cool. Let's add a little bit of that in there, and then let's also just change the position of the camera so that we can see future. It's still a little cut off, so what I'm going to do is actually just let's see, I'm going to change the size of this text a little bit, which is kind of a no-no because the graphics guy created it this way, but we're working in 3D space, so we want to keep it the way that he had it originally. Originally you could see the whole thing, so let's just grab it. There we go. Grab that, and let's just change the text size a little bit. Bring it down to, let's see what that does. Oh, you know what I need to do is select my text. Nope, not like that. Doggone you. Why won't that work? That should work. Because I'm in 3D space. Maybe what I'll do is just push it back in Z space. That's what I'll do. That'll give us a little bit more depth anyway. That's always cool. There we go. Okay, so let's check that out. It's starting position. This fades up. Text should fade up here. Let's make sure it's still nice and readable. It's a little bit small, but we're zooming in. So there we go. Let's do a render of that. Boy, my computer's going really slow tonight. What's the deal here? I'm going to drop the quality down to half because this could be a really large file. I have no idea what size it is. I'm cutting off, you can see a little bit here, so I'm going to have to, and I think the reason for that is actually the camera. So what I probably need to do is, oh, and you know why? You remember I changed the position of the camera with the orbit tool? I didn't set a keyframe for it. I believe I do need to set a keyframe for orientation when I change the camera using the orbit tool. So let me see. Let me change the orientation a little bit. So I think I need it. We could also resize our background, but I want to kind of get that, you know, camera movement in there. So let me resize this also. Resize the background. Again, I'm just working here like for real. This is how I work. Make a lot of mistakes and things. So you're just dealing with that with me. Okay, and then let's set a keyframe for orientation. Move the time cursor down. There we go. And now I want to maybe move this way a little bit. There we go. That's cool. And let's change the position of the camera a little bit so we don't cut off the T in Thanksgiving. Okay. Save that. And I'm going to, oh, you know what? Look at that. It's cut off again. Doggone you. Let's see here. So I am going to, I guess, just make the background a little larger yet. Oh, you know what? I could move this down. The background just needs to be bigger. That's the deal. That's the deal. It just needs to be larger. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to disable motion blur for now for this preview, just because motion blur takes a lot longer to render. When we render it, we will make sure that motion blur is on, and I believe that in our render settings it's on by default, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. You see another problem here, this little what is this thing called, and why can't I think of it? This little button thing, whatever, is cut off at the beginning, so we need to resize that and just actually pull out that edge so it's not cut off. But okay, let's check out our animation just here. Cool, it looks good. I like it. The only thing I might do is slow down the camera movement. It looks a little bit fast. We don't want it to be too distracting. So I'm just going to pull this out a little bit. pull it back here. I don't want to reposition it up and down and the Y. Let's make sure that's good. Okay, that looks good. So I'm just going to slow down the camera a little bit because it moves a little bit fast. So one way we could do it is to increase the length of our composition, just move our keyframe out, which would slow it down. The other thing we could do is just pull it back a little bit so it doesn't zoom in quite as far. Maybe do something like that. Because it starts at 1251 and ends at 1160, so maybe we can make that like 1130. No. 1180. Yes. Alright, let's check that out. Animation starts. Looking good. Looking real good. The other thing I might do is change the keyframes from these. What are these called? I don't know what they're called in their current state, but I want to change them to easy ease, possibly, for this animation of the text. Let's check it out. I don't know. It's not bad. And it looks like it's okay. Yeah, it's cool. Just going to let it render to the end so we can check out the whole thing. But I think I like it. Hurry up, you. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. You see it adds a little bit of motion to the background. It's nothing huge. It's pretty subtle. And most people would probably not notice, but it makes it look a little bit nicer. Alright, cool. I like that. So let's just render this out. To do that, we go up to, Composition, Add to Render Queue. And I have a setting down here already. I usually just render out to ProRes. And that should be, I'm going to change the name to Animation. And put this in our World Vision folder. Hit Save. And that's it. We're good to go. Hit render. You know what? I believe I didn't enable motion blur, and I thought that motion blur was automatically added by default, but maybe I have that turned off. I don't know. Maybe I'm just confused. But let's go back and make sure that motion blur is now enabled for our render. Go back in here and change this to my ProRes setting and change this, take off the numbers. I just want it to say any for animation because I'm cool like that. Replace it, yes, and hit render. And let's sit here and watch it render. That's exciting. Not really. I'm going to end this tutorial now because that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple working with Photoshop files within After Effects, and you will probably get some sort of Photoshop file at some point working with motion graphics, especially if you're working with graphics people. It makes it nice being able to just animate a fully complete design like this. It's just easy to take certain elements because you have all the layers there. Just take certain elements and animate those just like I did here. It makes it very easy and saves you a lot of time because you're not having to do any of the design work. So we could mess with this more, but this is needs to be a quick turnaround project, so I'm just doing kind of bare minimum basic animation to it just to add a little life to it. And hopefully they'll be happy. I think that'll work. Alright, thanks for watching this tutorial. Make sure you check out more of these that are possibly a little bit more lively, but probably not. You can check those out at my website, www.jasoncalhoun.info. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye.